So there we are with our two carvings. So you can see on the finished one here, I give bangs to the I put bangs on this guy here, but you have to be able to work underneath in order to be able to create the brows on the carving. So whatever design you want to put in for the hair coming over, you got to leave enough room underneath in order to create those brows. I guess you could do without if you had to. Now in the diagram, you'll notice that they bring it down and kind of sweep it to one side. Well, I didn't do it on this fella here, but I will do it on this guy here. So draw on where you think it should be. You know, a bit of an angle, however you want it to be, and then it's simply a matter of taking off both sides. Now you notice I have not textured or done anything with the ear. The only shape I've done with the ear is I've done the back as we did before. So I got the ear shaped all the way I like it on the back, but I'm not going to touch the front until after I get rid of this hair in here, this big chunk on either side, because eventually I want to have it so that it comes in more. See the shape in the diagram here, and even in my other finished one, how the ear was finished more or less coming in on the side. So just a question of removing the wood on either side, and we'll do that right now. I don't need to demo that.
Take that home to my wife.
So there it is with the both sides taken off. So I've got the ear coming all the way down now on both sides, because the ears are a big feature of this guy. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to round it off so that it rounds up into between the ears. You got to get that hair flopping over. In order to do that, you have to get rid of the sharp edges. You can see the sharp edges in there. You got to get rid of all those sharp edges. Let's start giving this a bit of shape here. Now this, you could have the bangs flip up. The diagram shows the flip up system or design. The one I did, I just brought it straight, kind of a sweep down. So the shape of this coming out can be whatever shape you want. If you wanted to have it flip up, well, you can take a bit more wood out of there and make the flip up. But either way, we've got to get in underneath here, and that's the key, is to get in underneath here. We got to go back up underneath there a little bit so we can create the brow in here on both sides. So a V-tool maybe to start with, and then if you want a sharper cut, come in with a knife and work that. But either way, don't be afraid to eliminate some material up in there so that we can get whatever shape coming on it. So don't worry too much about the upper shape. Just go with getting underneath here first, and then once that's done, then you create whatever design on the top.
Do not stop the pointing tonight.
Okay, so as I indicated, we've got the material removed from underneath and a little bit of a sweep up underneath so that we can create the texture for an eyebrow in there. Now we've got to come through the ears with that hair and then let it spread out, because the ears will compress it. And so just kind of draw that on and take out where you think it's going to have to come out on both sides. So something like that. Yeah, so that it comes out from between the ears and then spreads apart for the hair on the side. You can also give it a rounded shape, or if you're going to flip it up, make it a little bit flatter on the top, and that's pretty much it. So I'll just give that a little bit of a shape there, and then just make sure that you maintain the side of the ear. We can't lose the side of the ear. So at this point here, you can see where in the diagram, it's quite narrow at the bottom for the ear. The ear, it's quite a sweep coming down there. Depending on what profile and what design you want on it, this guy here, I've left a fairly substantial amount on the bottom where the ear attaches on. That's partly because I like the design, but also it gives it more strength. If you happen to drop this thing on the floor, if it has a very small attachment here at the bottom, there's a good chance that might just break off. So this way here, but I'll leave it to you as to what design you want to have, particularly for the outside or the front of the ear, I should say. If you want to have that curve back in further, certainly go for it. And that will give you more tough out here to work on that part there. That hair hanging over would create it would be a lot bigger. But make sure that you're completely satisfied with the outside of the ear. Hopefully they're both the same on both sides before you even consider carving out anything on the middle to actually let them be able to hear. I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to remove some of the marks that I've got on there just to get rid of them, and I'll also go up the front part of the ear. I won't hollow it out, but I'll get rid of all the saw marks. I'll just use a knife to do most of that. Okay, so I've got all the outside of this these saw marks all removed, and I'm satisfied with the shape that I'm going to go with. So now I've got to mark an edge around the outside, so I just put in this case a pencil on, put my finger against the side of it so that I can maintain that size all the way up. Turn it over, you can do the other side right away. Where are we? And then you can start the other side, but you likely won't be able to come down very far. But it'll give you a starting point. And you'll have to freehand it. And I put it down so that I can create the arc. Once again, create the arc. And then design whatever shape you want at the bottom. And you'll notice on the diagram here, it's pointy at the top and kind of a round on the bottom. That can be created with I'll use a number 9 gouge, and this happens to be 5 millimeters wide. And I don't know whether you can see the end there very well or not, but the end is complete U, but no sides on it. High-sided gouge number 11 would likely work in there as well. But anyway, be careful when you go to remove the material. Once again, the way the grain is on this fella here, you're going to have to come down the grain in order to remove it. But draw on how you want to have it finish at the bottom here first. So I'm going to come down and give it a bit of a rounded shape on the bottom on both sides. Try and get both ears relatively close to being the same. Okay, I'll just mess around with that a bit now. So the eyebrows on the finished guy is just right there. Okay, so that's just done with a V-tool, and all you got to do is just get a V-tool, get a small V-tool in there. You can use a high-sided gouge as well, but there's a small V-tool, and just grab a hold of it. Now, again, try and give it a bit of a ray so that the top is more towards the outside. So we're going to Can you see that? So there's his eyebrow right there, just as simple as that.
You don't lower the top of the eyebrow, right?
I eliminated a little bit of material in there, but the advantage of the way this grain runs is up and down. That'll pop out without any trouble at all. I mean, so you can get away with it on this particular carving, not to make that hollow above the eyebrow. And then likewise, underneath the eye, you can create a little bit of a curve. It's hard to see. There, that's a bit better. You can see the curvature underneath the eye. The lighting in here is not very conducive of shadows, so. All right, so that's that for now. We'll work on the texturing of the tuft of hair, and you can use a variety of gouges or V-tools, and I tend to use two different sizes, whether they're gouges or whether they're V-tools. That helps to give me different textures by using two different sizes. And you notice I'm just working that up, trying to create a couple of different levels with the bigger V-tool. Put that aside and go with a smaller one. And you can come back in then and give it a little bit different shape and feel by coming back in with a smaller V-tool, and once you've got the clumps established with the bigger tool, then the little one comes in there and works pretty nice. So it looks something like that. Don't forget to put your wife's toothbrush back when you're through though. Okay, you can come down on the ends here if you like to create a different texture again. See how that kind of makes it look floppy? Okay, one more thing while we're at it is I wanted to give him his nostrils, and to do that I use a number 7 3mm, and it's basically done the same way as you do a button, and the only difference is we're going to take the button out. So you put the gouge in, push it in, tilt it a little bit to the side, give it a turn, and there it is, it's done. So all you got to do then is to take out the center, and you've got a nostril. Just like that. Now the trick is to have the other one in the same spot. But that's quite simply done. So I'll pass that around to everybody now. Alright, so now we're going to work on the mouth. And you can see by the diagram that we've given him a sad look, because the outside of the mouth turns down. If he was going to be happy, it would be turned up. We would turn it up. So you could give him a happy or a sad look, but we'll go with what this design is. So again, if you look at how this guy was done, this is the finished one, it was brought back and turned down. There's material has to be taken out. In the diagram you can see that it's rounded on the bottom. The rough out has a sharp edge right there. So we have to work in the two in conjunction. So we've got to get rid of the sharp edge here and we've got to give him a sad look. So we'll draw on the sad look, and that's just a little arc, just like that. As soon as you draw that on, you can see that he's a sad guy. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to knock in some of this material here, use a V-tool and knock it in so that it curves in underneath the top lip, and then we'll round over that lip. I'll go ahead and do that. So there he is there. And if I turn him kind of upside down, you can see how it curves in underneath. And I've rounded over all the edges, but get this V cut in here first. Again, once you do on one side, turn it over and do on the other side, and then come back and round over the bottom lip here, and just get rid of all the saw cuts. Bit too much of a sharp angle in there still, but that's got it set. I want to give the jaw a bit more attitude, I guess. Give it a bit more facial feature. You can see where it's quite a sharp angle in here. So by just taking a fairly flat gouge, I think this was number 3, and just creating an edge in here, it'll make a big difference. You have to come down on it because that's the way the grain is. But just by putting that little feature in there, you can see where it starts to form the bottom of the jaw. Now we'll have to take the sharp angles off, but that's kind of the basic feature. And likewise up here, we got the back of his head that we have to round off and create that as well. Keeping in mind that eventually we're going to round off the neck on both sides, so it's critical that you don't have the mane too wide, because we're going to have to be able to bring that around eventually. So basically what we're talking about is getting rid of sharp angles, with the exception of this minor but feature in here. Okay, that helps to form the back of the jaw. Gives it that little hollow look. Okay.